Hello everyone, I'm Detective Jojo. Today, I'm going to uncover a creepy unsolved case that's been buried for years. This isn't just a simple murder. It's a carefully planned massacre of an entire family. A Chinese family who worked hard for years in Australia was brutally killed overnight. 5 lives were lost, and blood stained their cozy home. The only survivor was their 15-year-old daughter, Brenda Lynn. She was on a school trip by chance and escaped the tragedy. But this is only the beginning of her nightmare. When she's adopted by kind-hearted relatives and thinks she can find support again, she never expects that the monster in human skin is sleeping right next door. Scene 1. A happy home, suddenly struck by tragedy. The story takes place in Sydney, Australia, in 2009. North Epping, a peaceful middle-class neighborhood. The Lin family lives here. The father, Min Lin, is 45 years old. He comes from Guangdong, China. He is a kind and hardworking man. He and his wife, Yunli Lin, 43, run a newsstand near North Epping train station. Don't underestimate this small shop. It's in a great location with lots of customers, making up to 1 million Australian dollars a year. This is a big success for an immigrant family. The Lin couple has 3 children. Their eldest daughter, 15-year-old Brenda Lin, their older son, 12-year-old Henry Lin, and their youngest son, 9-year-old Terry Lin. The family of 5 lives a happy and comfortable life. Min Lin and his wife are well-liked in the community. Neighbors describe them as quiet, hardworking, and self-sufficient. July 18, 2009, Saturday. It should have been just an ordinary weekend. Min Lin should have gone to take care of his newsstand early as usual, but by 9:50 a.m., the shop is still closed. This seems very strange to the employee who comes to work, because Boss Min is always on time or even opens earlier. The employee tries calling Min's phone, but no one answers. He also calls Min Lin's wife, Yunli Lin, but again gets no response. In desperation, the employee contacts Min's sister, Shu Lin. Shu and her husband Robert Xia live very close to her brother's family, just 300 meters away. When Shu gets the call, a strong sense of unease washes over her. She immediately asks her husband Robert Xia to come with her, and they drive to her brother Min Lin's house. A few minutes later, they arrive at Min's home, 53, Boundary Road. What they see makes their hearts sink. The front door, usually locked tight, is slightly open. Shu Lin and Robert Xia exchange a worried look. They call out for Min and his wife Yun Li as they carefully step inside. The first floor is empty and eerily quiet. They decide to go upstairs to check. The master bedroom door on the second floor isn't fully closed. Shu Lin pushes it open. What she sees next makes her scream in terror. Her sister-in-law Yun Li lies in a pool of blood, already dead. The walls and ceiling are covered in dark red blood and brain matter, a horrifying sight. Seeing this, Robert Xia quickly grabs Shu Lin from behind as she nearly faints. He covers her eyes with his hand to shield her from the terrible scene. But the horror doesn't end there. In the next few minutes, they find the bodies of Yun Li's 39-year-old sister Yunbin Lin, who was visiting Sydney at the time, her 12-year-old nephew Henry Lin, her 9-year-old nephew Terry Lin, and finally, the body of her brother Min Lin under the bed in the master bedroom. All 5 family members are dead. Shu Lin, shaking with fear and grief, makes a desperate call to the police.
Hello, I need an ambulance to 55A Boundary Road.
What's wrong? What's wrong?
Yeah, I think someone died. I'm not sure.
Why do you think someone's dying?
I think they died.
Why?
I'm not sure, but maybe someone killed my brother's family.
Are they on the ground?
No, they are the bedroom. They're all the bedroom.
Can you see their bodies?
Yeah, I saw.
The police and paramedics arrive quickly. Even experienced detectives are shocked when they step into the blood-soaked house. The head of the New South Wales Homicide Squad later calls it one of the most brutal crime scenes I've seen in my career. All the victims were beaten to death with a blunt object. Their faces are badly damaged, and some bodies are so unrecognizable that DNA tests are needed to confirm their identities. The medical examiner's report shows that all 5 victims died around the early hours of July 18th. Min Lin and his wife seem to have been attacked first while they were sleeping. In Yunbin Lin's room, there are clear signs of a struggle. She has defensive wounds on her arms, which means she tried to fight back before she was killed. The 2 young boys, Henry Lin and Terry Lin, also have many defensive wounds on their bodies. It is believed they woke up after hearing noises and tried to fight the killer. What's even more heartbreaking is that one of the boys may have survived for 1 or 2 hours after being badly hurt before finally passing away from his injuries. Act 2. The mystery deepens, clues emerge. This horrific family massacre shocks all of Australia. Police form a special task force called Strike Force Norben, with 18 elite officers to hunt the killer. But the investigation hits roadblocks right away. Crime scene analysis reveals key mysteries. First, no signs of forced entry. Doors and windows are intact, with no damage or break-in marks. This suggests the killer might be someone they knew, someone with a house key, or maybe the victims let them in. Second, nothing was stolen. The house wasn't messed up, and valuables were still there. This rules out a robbery gone wrong. Third, the weapon is missing. No possible murder weapon was found at the scene. Police think it might be a hammer or something similar, but even after a big search, they never found it. Fourth, precise targets. The killer seems to know the Lin family's house layout and routines very well. He or she goes straight upstairs to attack the sleeping victims. All bedroom doors on the second floor were opened, except for Brenda Lin's door. It stayed completely closed with no signs of being touched. This means the killer knew for sure Brenda Lin wasn't home. Where was Brenda Lin at the time? She wasn't home because she was on a school trip called the New Caledonia Ecology Tour, which is why she luckily escaped harm. Only the Lin family and a few close friends knew this detail. Outsiders wouldn't easily know about it. Fifth, the strange silence. The Lin family's neighbors said the night of the crime was unusually quiet. They didn't hear any screams or fighting sounds. One neighbor even had 2 alert dogs, but that night the dogs didn't make any noise either. This suggests the killer acted quickly and brutally, attacking the victims by surprise so they couldn't call for help. It's also possible the killer used some method to stop the victims from fighting back. Sixth, shoe prints. Police found 24 clear shoe prints at the scene, all from the same pair. By analyzing the size and pattern, police believe they were left by a pair of Asics brand men's sneakers, size around US 10.5. Based on the scene, police first think the killer is likely a man working alone. The case is becoming clearer. This is probably a crime committed by someone the family knew, with revenge or planned motives. Police first check Min Lin's social connections and business dealings. Min Lin is a quiet, kind person with no obvious enemies. However, one clue catches the police's attention. A few months before the murders, Min Lin testified in court as a witness to an armed robbery near his newsstand. The robber stole a large amount of cash at that time. Police wonder if this family massacre could be revenge by a gang or the robber. But after a thorough investigation, this lead eventually goes nowhere due to lack of evidence. The focus of the investigation slowly shifts to Min Lin's family and relatives. As the first people to discover the crime scene, Shu Lin and Robert Xie naturally face detailed questioning from the police. At first, they appear grief-stricken and cooperative. But as the investigation goes deeper, some of Robert Xie's words and actions start to seem more and more suspicious. Act 3. The Devil Next Door, Uncle Robert Xie. Robert Xie is 45 years old at the time of the crime. He is also from Guangdong, China. He is Shu Lin's husband and Brenda Lin's uncle. He used to be an ear, nose, and throat doctor with a promising career in China. In 1999, he moved to Australia with his wife Shu Lin and their son. However, his medical license was not recognized there, so he couldn't work as a doctor. He tries to start a business and opens a Chinese restaurant, but it fails and leaves him with a lot of debt. After that, he seems to stay unemployed or only takes odd jobs, and the family mainly relies on his wife Shu Lin for money. Compared to his brother Min Lin's success, Robert Xie's life seems quite disappointing. According to Lin family elders, Xie is introverted, sensitive, and has strong pride. He seems jealous of Min Lin's wealthy family. Although the two families live nearby and appear to get along, there is hidden tension between Shu Lin and Min Lin over money matters and family issues. Police find more suspicious things about Robert Xie. First red flag, his strange behavior after the crime. When Shu Lin called the police, she begged Xie through tears not to leave her. But Xie insisted on driving away, saying he needed to pick up Min Lin's parents in Maryland's. The drive normally takes only 30 minutes, but Robert Xie takes nearly 2 hours to return. He says he got lost, but this excuse doesn't make sense. Police suspect he used this time to get rid of the murder weapon and the clothes he wore during the crime. Second red flag, his knowledge of the crime scene. During the first police interview, Shu Lin says she only saw 4 victims. This matches the initial police findings, as Min Lin's body was found later. However, Robert Xie confidently tells the police he saw 5 bodies. At that time, the police had not yet announced the exact number of deaths. How did he know? The only explanation is that he already knew Min Lin was also killed before calling the police. He might even be the one who moved or hid Min Lin's body. The third red flag, his excessive concern and strange behavior toward Brenda Lin. After the crime, Robert Xie and Shu Lin offered to adopt their surviving niece, Brenda Lin, saying they wanted to give her a complete family. At first, Brenda Lin's grandparents weren't fully comfortable with the idea, but in their grief and confusion, and seeing Robert Xie and his wife's sincerity, they eventually agreed. However, in the following days, Robert Xie's physical contact with Brenda Lin seems too close and uncomfortable. Brenda Lin later recalls that her uncle would touch her shoulders and back on purpose or by accident. He even entered her room while she was sleeping. At the time, these details didn't raise much concern, but looking back, they send chills down the spine. The fourth red flag, interfering with the police investigation. The police noticed that Robert Xie seems to be coaching his wife Shu Lin on how to answer their questions. Shu Lin's statements keep changing and contradicting each other. At the same time, Robert Xie acts unusually eager about the investigation. He keeps offering the police random clues, trying to steer their attention away from the truth. All the suspicious points lead to Robert Xie, but the police lack direct physical evidence. To get the key evidence, they decide to take a bold step, secretly installing surveillance cameras and listening devices in Robert Xie and Shu Lin's home. Act 4. Solid evidence. Justice prevails. The surveillance forms an invisible net, quietly spreading out. The police wait patiently for their target to slip up. Finally, the chance comes. During a conversation with Shu Lin, the police casually mention finding Asics brand sneaker prints at the crime scene. After returning home, Shu Lin immediately tells Robert Xie the news. The surveillance footage clearly shows Xie's face turning pale upon hearing it. He frantically searches through the house, finds an Asics shoebox, cuts it into tiny pieces, and flushes it down the toilet. He seems to forget that even when shredded, small plastic fragments can remain. Later, the police indeed find these pieces in his home's drainage pipe. Robert Xie's favorite daily shoes are Asics sneakers, and the size matches the shoe prints at the crime scene. The surveillance also catches Xie teaching Shu Lin word by word how to answer the police's questions and how to make up an alibi. Even worse, the cameras record Xie sexually harassing his 15-year-old niece, Brenda Lin, who was already traumatized by the tragedy. When Shu Lin isn't home, Xie does many disturbing things to her. After gathering these indirect pieces of evidence, the police raid Robert Xie's home in May 2010. They focus their search on his garage. Not long after the crime, Xie had cleaned the garage floor unusually thoroughly. Using special chemicals, the police find a tiny blood stain in one corner, later called Stain 91. The stain is only about 2 centimeters long and 0.6 centimeters wide. This tiny, almost overlooked stain becomes the key evidence in the case. Advanced DNA testing shows the blood contains a mixed profile of all 4 victims: Min Lin, Yunli Lin, Han Lin, and Tao Lin. This is solid proof that Robert Xie handled items stained with the victim's blood after the crime, most likely the murder weapon. On May 5, 2011, the police officially arrest Robert Xie and charge him with the murder of all 5 Lin family members. However, the trial faces many twists and turns, lasting a full 6 years. Xie hires a top legal team, insists he is innocent, and challenges all the evidence. His wife, Shu Lin, stands by her husband the whole time, firmly believing he is innocent. She even turns against her own parents because of this. To get more direct evidence, the police send an undercover officer into Robert Xie's prison. The officer pretends to be a criminal. After spending a lot of time with Xie and carefully asking questions, Xie starts to open up. He shares more details about the case with the undercover officer. He admits that before the crime, he bought a hammer from a hardware store with no security cameras. On the night of the crime, he gave his wife Shu Lin sleeping pills to make sure she stayed asleep and didn't notice anything. He knows the Lin family's electrical system well. Before entering, he cuts off the main power to plunge the house into darkness. He uses a spare key he made earlier to open the Lin family's front door. As the investigation goes deeper, Robert Sie's motives for the crime become clear. 1. Greed and jealousy. He had long envied Min Lin's wealth and success. He wanted to take his place and claim the Lin family's property and newsstand business. 2. Twisted obsession with Brenda Lin. Robert Sie had inappropriate feelings for his young and beautiful niece Brenda Lin for a long time. After killing the Lin family, he could legally control Brenda Lin as her adoptive father. 3. Resentment over family status. In the extended family, he felt looked down upon because of his poor financial situation. Killing Min Lin's family would help him gain a higher position in the family relationships. On January 12, 2017, after 3 years of court hearings and 4 separate trials, the first 3 ended in mistrials due to hung juries or legal issues. The jury at the New South Wales Supreme Court finally reached a majority verdict 11-1, finding Robert Sie guilty of 5 counts of first-degree murder. On February 13, 2017, the judge sentenced Robert Sie to 5 life sentences to be served consecutively, with no chance of parole. In Australia, this is the harshest punishment possible, short of the death penalty, which has been abolished. Hearing the verdict, Brenda Lin breaks down in tears in the courtroom. The nightmare that lasted for years finally comes to an end. The elderly Lin couple also weep bitterly. The long-delayed justice finally brings some peace to their brutally murdered loved ones. Act 5. The survivor's nightmare and rebirth. For Brenda Lin, the pain from this family massacre is far from over. At her weakest moment, the uncle she trusted turns out to be the killer who murdered her entire family. For nearly 7 years from the crime in 2009 until Robert Sie's conviction in 2016, he sexually abuses and mentally controls her while pretending to be her foster father. In her court statement, Brenda Lin says Robert Sie adopts her as her guardian after the crime and sexually assaults her during this time. She explains that Sie takes advantage of her fragile state after losing her family. He pretends to care for her to make her depend on him, while sexually harassing her for years. During the police investigation, cameras installed in Robert Sie's home captured him making inappropriate physical contact with Brenda Lin. These sexual assault incidents were included as court evidence and became a key part of proving Robert Sie's criminal motives. Only after Robert Sie was arrested did Brenda Lin finally get a temporary escape from this disguised hell. But the psychological wounds will take much longer to heal. With the love from her grandparents and help from psychologists, Brenda Lin shows amazing courage and strength. She doesn't let hate control her. Instead, she chooses to arm herself with knowledge and fight for justice through the law. Now, Brenda Lin has grown up. She gets into the law school at the University of Sydney and works on her PhD. She hopes that through her own efforts, she can help more people who have suffered like her. She actively takes part in public activities against domestic violence and child protection, using her own experience to warn others. Though her face still carries marks from the past, it shows more determination for the future and love for life. She chooses to grow toward the sunlight, leaving the darkness behind. Robert Sie, once a doctor who should have saved lives, instead took 5 innocent lives in the cruelest way. Wearing the mask of family love, he acted like a true monster, showing the worst of human greed, jealousy, and twisted nature. He will spend the rest of his days in a cold prison, paying forever for his terrible crimes. Shu Lin, as both a wife and sister, her role is full of tragedy and controversy. Was she blinded by love, or did she choose to cover up for her husband under his long-term mental control? She still hasn't forgiven the Lin family. She keeps fighting for Robert Sie's appeal, living in her own fantasy that my husband is innocent, and has completely cut ties with her entire family. The Sydney Lin family massacre is a heartbreaking tragedy. It reminds us that the darkness in human nature runs much deeper than we think. Sometimes, the most dangerous demons may be hiding right beside us, wearing the most familiar and harmless disguise. When dealing with people, especially in complex relationships involving family, love, or money, staying alert might help prevent irreversible harm. May the victims rest in peace. May Brenda Lin fully step out of the shadows and embrace the bright future that belongs to her. And may this case serve as a constant reminder to beware of the evil in human nature and to cherish the peace and safety we have now. I'm Detective Jojo. That's all for today's story. See you next time.